to another episode of Revernos. In today's video, we will be discussing lambda functions in Python. We'll start by telling you what a lambda function is, how you can use them, and why you should use them. So let's dive right in. A lambda function, also known as an anonymous function, are a lightweight and easier way to write simple functions in Python. These functions consist of a single statement, and the result of that statement will be its return value. They are created using the lambda keyword, which we will see in action later in the video. So this is the example we'll be using in this video. Imagine if you have a simple function whose purpose is to return half of a number. And you know, the mathematical operation here really doesn't matter. Lambas are functional and can be used for a lot of different operations, but in this case, we'll just be returning half the number. So we define a function called half number, which takes num as an input, and then it returns that num divided by 2. And so if we were to run this and we pass in the number 10, then of course we'll see half of 10 is 5. Now you can also use a lambda function to do this function in one line of code. But before we do that, I want to make you aware of the name attribute. So if you have a function, here we'll use half number, and you have dot underscore underscore name underscore underscore. This name is a special attribute in Python which will give you the name of whatever you use to call that attribute. So in this case, half number, and it simply returns half number. Now keep this in mind because we'll look at this attribute again when we create our lambda function, and we'll be able to see how it differs. The general form that all lambda functions follow in Python is the following form here. We have our lambda variable name, and we'll set that equal to the keyword lambda, which you'll need to create a lambda in every situation. And then that lambda will have a return value, and then you'll have a colon, and then your expression, and this expression will determine what your return value is. I won't run that because that's just pseudocode. But now let's actually use this general form and convert this function into a lambda. So we start with our lambda variable name, which will just be, we'll just call that half num lambda, give it a little more explicit name. We'll set that equal to, we need the keyword lambda, and we need our return value, which once again, actually in this case we'll just use n, we won't use num this time. And then we need an expression that determines what our return value will be, and that will just be half of n, so n divided by 2. So then if we run that, we see we don't have any errors, and then we can copy and paste the name of this lambda function, and let's pass in 10 again, and let's see if we get the same output, and we do. So essentially what this lambda is doing is we're creating a lambda that outputs n, and it just runs the expression n divided by 2, and then gives us back that return value n. So we pass in 10, and it gives us the result of 10 divided by 2, which is 5. And now I want to look at the name attribute of our lambda function. So you can just paste that, do underscore underscore name underscore underscore. And we can see this function doesn't have a name, it's just a lambda. And that's why lambdas are also referred to as anonymous functions. So let's do another example for how you can use lambdas in Python. Let's say we have two lists. We can have these two lists, one containing names of Game of Thrones characters and one containing names of Avengers names. To save time, I just copy and pasted that from another application so I won't have to type out all of our lists. And let's say we want to create a lambda that checks if the name that's passed in is in either of these lists. We'll follow the same form that we did up here. So we'll just create our name check variable, which is what we'll call our lambda. Remember, we need the keyword lambda, and then our return value, which we'll just use n here. And we want to check if n, which will be our names, is in either the Game of Thrones names or Avengers names. Now before I run this, you need to know that if you use a plus sign between two lists, you just concatenate the list. So if I were to run that, then you would see our Game of Thrones and Avengers names lists are combined. So now let's just go ahead and run our name check, create that name check lambda. Then we can use that name, and let's pass in the name. Let's do Tyrion, and we can see that it's true. Now let's check a name that's not in our list. Let's check Cersei, and that's false. And you can see that this is working as expected because Tyrion is inside this list, but Cersei is not in either of these lists. So that's an example of how you can use a lambda to check to see if a name is in either of two lists. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Also, we have a lot of great content on our channel, and we have a lot of great content coming in the future about Python programming. data analytics, machine learning, physical computing using Raspberry Pis, and cloud computing and Amazon Web Services. So make sure you subscribe so you can view all of those videos coming in the future and support the channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.